Okay, so guys, we're going to be talking about recommendations this morning, and this is one of my favorite topics to start off any push, any push week. The reason why it's so important to me is because, well, it really is the life source of our business, meaning that it is where everything else builds off of. I mean, you can have an amazing appointment, you can have $1,000 average order, but if you only do one demo for the whole 2 weeks, that means you sell $1,000. So. It is nice to have a high average order. It is nice to have an amazing 100% type closing percentage. But what really the true champions in our business are the best at is getting a lot of recommendations and the right types of recommendations. So that's why I'm excited to talk about it this morning, because there's a couple things that you could do at the beginning of the presentation that helps set it up properly. There's things that you could do towards the very end, and then obviously a lot that you can do during the recommendation process. That helps you out a ton. So the first thing that I think it all starts with is preparation. And what I mean by preparation is you got to have a recommendation notebook. And there's a couple different ways you can do this. The first way you can do it is you can just go out and buy an actual new 3-ring or hole punch binder, one where it's got the sleeves in the beginning and the sleeves at the end. So that way you could put in, your sponsorship form in the very back of the book, and on the front of the book, I think what you want to do is put whatever your goals are, whatever goals you're working towards. Make anything that makes it you personal. And what I mean by that is it could be pictures of you from school, it could be pictures of your family, it could be things that you're shooting towards. Maybe it's a picture of a diploma if that's something you're shooting for. Maybe it's a picture of some new item that you need to have in order to help you with whatever your major is. For example, if it's Brian, he may have a photo of some sort of new program or some sort of a special type of accessory or something that he needs in order to be able to shoot, film better videos. So whatever the case is, have something on the front that really defines you. For example, Lauren, I'm thinking about you being a hospitality, hotel management type major. Do you have something on there that kind of shows that, right? I mean, maybe it's just a picture of the coolest hotel you've ever been at, or maybe that you'd ever want to stay at, and then you have that on the front, so you can talk about, hey, I go to Cornell, but this is what I'm majoring in. It's one of the top programs in the nation for this major, and by working here, it helps me get the communication skills that I need. But you tie that into why you're working. And so having that recommendation notebook is huge. And in the recommendation notebook, you want to make sure you have all your recommendations. Have them hole punched, and this is a sign-in sheet, but you get the idea, right? It's got 20. I think this is only 25, but you have all your recommendations set up where it's got everybody that's giving you at least 10 is in your binder, and so that way as you're flipping, you're seeing that everybody's giving you 10. If you get it to a place where a lot of people have given you 20, well, then you do that, right? Where everybody's giving you 20, you just flip. That way, when you get to a clean sheet, they see that everybody before has given you a 20 or 15 or 10 or whatever the number is, and they're going to give it to you as well. I think that nobody ever wants to be first to do anything, and nobody ever wants to be last, right? So if they see that everybody else is doing it, they're going to be a lot more comfortable giving you recommendations. So that all is part of the preparation side. Another thing that's important on the preparation side is make sure that you find out a couple of key things about each customer before you go see them. And what I mean by that is that happens at the last end of the presentation that you did. And then as you're talking on the phone with the customer, make sure to take notes about the customer. If they mention something about going out of town for vacation, or if they mention that they've got kids' soccer games, or, because everybody always gives you some reason why they're busy when they book up, right? I mean, it's very rare that when you call somebody, they're like, oh yeah, just swing on over. Usually it's something like, oh, we're really busy with this, but I guess you can come over here, right? Or, hey, we're really busy with this, and then you find a way to get them booked up. So whatever the case is, whenever you're talking to them, take little notes so that way you can reference that as you're building rapport at the beginning of the presentation. That helps you to be able to make connections. Now, once you start the presentation, the rapport building part, I think, is the most important part that you could do. And there's a couple of things that you could do that I think really help out. Number one is a process called open, close, thank you, not just a knife salesperson, and why you're working. Okay, so so let me explain how you do that at the beginning of the presentation. I know that's kind of a 5-step process there. But what you do is before you ever start the presentation, you take out your book and you say, hey, Ms. Jones, so what I'm here to show you today is Cutco. And you kind of go like you're going to open it and start, but then you close it back up. Okay, so hey, what I'm here to show you is Cutco. Before I do that, I want to thank you for seeing me today. Okay. You've already helped me out a ton just by seeing me. And you could reference your base pay. For example, you could say, I get paid $15 just to do the appointment. And you may think, well, why would you say that? Because that gives them the impression they don't have to buy. No, it doesn't. I don't think anybody's like, oh, I just really want to give this kid $15. I don't think it really goes that route. So, but here's what you do. You say, hey, I want to thank you again for seeing me. Or sorry, I'm here to show you Cutco. Before I do that, I want to really thank you again for seeing me. You've already helped me out a ton. In fact, the company pays me $15 just to do the presentation. Have you ever heard of Cutco before? Okay. So this is a process you do at the beginning of the presentation, but it sets it up tremendously to getting a ton of recs. Okay, so have you ever heard of Cutco before? And a lot of times they'll say yes. Sometimes they'll say no. Doesn't matter either way. And whatever the case is, you just say, hey, it is, in fact, the product is pretty awesome. As a matter of fact, the reason the company guarantees me $15 per appointment is because the product is so unbelievable and I'm pretty good at my job. So don't be surprised if you see something you like. Everybody does, right? Or you could just say, 95% of people get something, or not, whatever the accurate number is for you, right? If you don't know your exact closing percentage, well, then just say pretty much everybody does, right? Because even though they don't get it, they are impressed with the quality of some of the product, right? Maybe they're not fired up about the shears, which that would be kind of ridiculous. But let's just say they don't like the shears. Well, chances are they like the spatula spreader. Let's say they don't like the spatula spreader. Well, chances are they like the table knives. I mean, there's going to be something that they like. So it's a very accurate statement to say, hey, don't be surprised to see something you like. Everybody does. Okay. Now, here's the key part to getting recs. Okay, so we start the first 3 steps, right? Or hey, you open it, you close it. Say, hey, well, I'm here to show you Cutco. Before I do that, I really want to thank you for seeing me today. In fact, the company pays me $15 just for showing the product. Have you ever heard of Cutco before? Yes, no, maybe. Okay. Well, the product is awesome. In fact, the reason the company guarantees me, $15 because the product is so unbelievable and I'm pretty good at my job. So don't be surprised if you see something you like. Everybody does. Okay. Now, here's the key part for recommendations. You say, but just so you know, I'm not just a knife salesperson. Okay. Actually, the reason why I'm working is because, and then you share your why. Okay. And then and see what's cool about that, guys, is if you've already got your recommendation binder made, you take that book that you've got right here, the blue book, you set it down, you take out your recommendation binder, and you share the part at the beginning. You show the pictures of where you go to school. You show why you're working. You're showing all of the information as to why you're doing what you're doing, your greater cause, right? And see, that's why people are going to give you recommendations, not because you're selling the world's best knives. They will recommend you to some people for that. Some people that they know are interested in Cutco, know that they like to cook, know that they like to entertain, know that they would like high quality stuff. But if you want to get recommended to 15, 20, 30 people, you got to have a bigger reason for working than just selling the world's best knives. Okay? So you say that very phrase. It's like, hey, but just so you know, I'm not just a knife salesperson. The reason why I'm working is because, and then you share your why. And the best way to formulate a why is just to ask yourself the question, why am I working? Then ask, why is that important? And then why does that matter? Right? So maybe the reason why you're working is because you're trying to save money for school. Well, why does school matter for you? Maybe you're going to school for business. Why do you want to go to school for business? Well, maybe one day you want to run your own business. And so then there becomes your formulated why, right? It's like, hey, Michelle, just so you know, the reason why I'm working is because I'm saving up money for school. I'm a student right now at UNC Chapel Hill, and I'm actually majoring right now in business. So my goal here is actually to save a lot of money to be able to one day be able to open up my own business. Okay? So by sharing that kind of why and why does that matter, why is that important, those 2 extra steps of whys, you have a really solid reason for explaining why you're working to the customer. And they're going to be a lot more tied into your goals moving forward. Because if you just simply say, hey, I'm doing it for the experience, well, it doesn't really mean that much unless you tell them what the experience is going to be used for. Okay? I know for me, as I started getting closer to the end of my college career, and I was figuring out, am I going to become a district manager? Am I going to go do investment banking? Am I going to do something in commercial real estate or anything else? My thing that I said was, Ms. Jones, the reason why I'm working here is because I know one day I want to own my own business. Whether it's here with our business or somewhere else. And this is giving me great resume experience and building my ability to run my own business. And you know what? It's always awesome to create options. So by working hard here, it opens up a lot of doors for me. And when you share that with your customers, they see that you're not the stereotypical lazy college kid. That makes a huge difference. Okay? They're going to want to help you out. In fact, I've had some customers that have given me the entire neighborhood directory pretty much because they just realized their kid was a bum. And what I mean by that is that they were, I had one lady that said, you know what, gosh, you're working so hard here on a Saturday morning. My lazy son is sitting upstairs sleeping. He'll probably sleep until noon. And then he's going to ask me for money to go to the mall. I was just like, hey, Ms. Jones, I can only work here. So it'd be nice if I had that ability, but I don't. And she's like, here, just call everybody in the neighborhood. Okay? I've had people spend money as the son or daughter walks down and asks for money, and they're like, I'm not giving you any money. Why don't you work like this kid is? And it's kind of funny, when you hear that happen. But the truth is that's the way it should be. You need to go out and earn your keep. And when you do that, and you do that 5-step process, you open it, you close, say, hey, thanks for getting to see me. So just to kind of start it from the very beginning one last time, because if you do this, I think this covers a lot of the preparation for why they're going to give you recs. Okay. Then I'll talk about a couple things you can do while you're building rapport. So, hey, what I'm here to show you is Cutco, but before I do that, I just want to thank you again for seeing me. In fact, you've already helped me out a ton. The company gives me $15 just for showing you the product. Have you ever heard of Cutco before? No? Okay, no big deal. Well, the product is unbelievable. As a matter of fact, the reason the company pays me $15 is because the product is awesome and I'm pretty good at what I do. So don't be surprised if you see something you like. Everybody does. But Mr. Mullins, just so you know, the reason I'm not just a knife salesperson. Actually, the reason why I'm working is right now I'm a college student at UNC Chapel Hill, and I'm working hard to be able to pay for all my personal expenses and bills and stuff at school and to pay my way through college. Right now I'm a business major. I know one day I eventually want to open up my own business, and whether it's here to investment banking or something else, I know this is going to give me the proper skill set that I want to do in order to be successful. Plus, it does create it opens up a lot of doors for me. It gives me options, which is really nice to have in today's economy. So thanks again. You've really helped me out. And so that's how I led into the presentations. Then as you're as you're connecting before you start, right? As you're making connections, talking to them about them, a couple of things you want to do is find 5 different groups that you could suggest that they know. Okay, and what I mean by that is that and see what's cool about this is this helps you to build a better connection with your customers. And what I mean by that is that if you just go in and you're just sitting there kind of doing the surface level kind of communication, that's fine. That's totally fine. But can you have at least 5 different points that you connect on, or 5 different groups of individuals? Because then you really find out a lot about the customer. 5 different things I like to connect on. Number 1 is, what do their kids do for fun? Number 2, what do they do for fun? And number 3, do they know some of their neighbors? Number 4, where do they work? And then number 5, and this is kind of an important one, especially now with the virtual demos, where's their family from? Right? If you want to get real deep and you walk in, you see they've got a big cross, right? You know that they're real spiritual, that's easy to figure out, right? Or you walk in and they've got a big shrine, that they pray to. If that's something that you have a connection with, then definitely connect with it. So starting at the beginning, it was kids do for fun. What do they do for fun? Who do they know from the neighborhood? Where do they work? And then lastly is, I just had it.
Where their
family's from, right? Because then at the end, right, as they start giving you recommendations, if they get stuck on something, you can bring up one of those 5. It's like, hey, by the way, Miss Jones, what about putting down some of little Grammy's lacrosse teammates' parents? You know, right? Little Graham Cracker's lacrosse parents, right? You know, and then next thing you know, I'm sure you hated that one when you were little, didn't you? Yeah, no.
Sure
Yeah. So I'm sure he hates it now, but he's too asleep to pick it up. So, but if you say that phrase, right, what ends up happening is that they know that they can recommend those people. And here's my favorite thing to say at the end if they're like unsure about giving you a rec. You can always put them down. They could tell me no. You know, and I'll give you a tip on at the end how to make sure you always get 10. But that's something you could just throw out, right? It's like, hey, you know what? They can always tell me no. No big deal. I'm a big boy, right? I'm a big girl. You know, you put people down. They can always tell me no. I can handle it. Okay. So make those 5 connections. See, what's nice about that is as you're talking, that's such an easy thing for people to talk about. Where they're from, right? What they do for a living, what their kids do for fun. I mean, it's all surface level kind of conversation, but it's fun for them to talk about. It's easy for them to talk about. And then the other thing is that leads you to a ton of recommendations at the end. Okay? Now, it already mentions in the white book that the suggestion about, hey, recommending me to people that you know. So I don't need to really go into a whole lot of detail about that. But at the end of the presentation, you got to make sure you're leading in the right way. And so questions that you can use to lead into the presentation. Number 1, hey, so Ms. Jones, what do you think of the presentation? Did I do a good job? All right, that's the first one, right? So what do you think of the presentation? Did I do a good job? Number 2, what do you think of Cutco? It's pretty cool, isn't it? And the third question that you can ask is, if they had the time, could you think of any reason why somebody would mind taking a look at Cutco? If they had the time. And so you sandwich if they had the time, right? So you said, if they had the time, could you think of any reason why somebody would mind taking a look at Cutco? If they had the time. And because that really is truly the only reason, right? I mean, especially, as you're doing the presentation at the end, I mean, that's really the main hang up that people have is the time part. And so if you drop that part at the beginning, a lot of times what ends up happening is they're like, well, no, not if they have the time. You say, okay, great. There's one more really important part. Here's where you can really help me out. I get paid every time I show Cutco, and I can only call people I've been personally recommended to. So I need you to do on writing up the order and cleaning up. So jot down 10 to 15 people who might be nice to take a look. I'm not necessarily looking for people who would buy, just people nice like you to look. So here's a pen and paper. Put down as many as you can. Thanks so much. I really appreciate your help. Okay? You got to have the recommendation approach memorized. That's the next key. And I know that the wording has slightly changed since 2001, but that's my recommendation approach. That's what you say. Okay? And I mean, guys, I haven't done a presentation in 8 years. Okay? Because you got to have the recommendation approach memorized. Because if you have it memorized, you're going to get 10. If you don't have it memorized, you won't. Okay? You just won't. Okay, so getting those 7 lines committed to memory. I mean, you guys are all bright individuals. Chances are you had to memorize a lot longer plays and stuff when you were younger in school, or memorize lines for things, or your favorite song, or your favorite church hymn that you sing, or your favorite. I mean, almost whatever your favorite song is, chances are it's got more lyrics and more words than the recommendation approach has in it. Unless your favorite song is like a Little John song, right? And then it's like 5 words, right? But other than that, right? You've memorized a lot longer, right? If you're in a sorority or fraternity, you've had to memorize a lot longer, right? I mean, how long do you have a creed or something that you do? Yeah, how long is that? How many sentences? Yeah, and you have to memorize it, right? It's one of those things where if you memorize it, it gets committed to memory. And what's great about it is if you memorize the rec approach, it's like autopilot. You just go. Okay, so no matter what's happening on the presentation, you're just able to start it and run with it. Okay, so get that recommendation approach memorized, and it'll help you be able to get 10 plus more recommendations. Okay, so the next tip, and the next big tip for you on recommendations is making sure to stress the automatic sponsorship sheet. Okay, and here's what you do. As they're writing, Okay, you just let them know, hey, by the way, Ms. Jones, once you get to 10, you count as a sponsor. You know, if you get to 20, count as a double sponsor, and I can hook you up with a peeler for free. Okay. So if you get, when you get to 10, you count as a sponsor. You get 20, you count as a double sponsor, and I get to hook you up with a peeler for free. And then, guys, what you can do is you can either add it onto their order or just come in here and you could buy it from me for $5. Okay, it's a recommendation peelers that I ordered a bunch of them for this push. So that way, if somebody gives you 20, show me the rec list of 20, I'll give you the peeler for $5, and then you can give it to your customer. Okay, it's cost you $5 to get 20 additional potential appointments, right? Even if you only see one of the 20, it more than pays for itself. Okay? It's a good investment to make with the customers. Okay, so so utilize that to help you, and then here's a couple of little keys that you could do to make sure that you're getting at least 10. Okay, is if they get to like 5 or 6, just say, oh, Ms. Jones, you're halfway there to counting as a sponsor. You only a couple more, right? You get to 7 or 8, so Ms. Jones, you're right there. Other key phrases that I like to throw in, hey, Ms. Jones, you know what you could do? Why don't you put somebody on there that you know would definitely tell me no? Okay? Put them on there. Make it more interesting for me. Yeah, you know, because see, what's funny is when you go that route, then it's like, oh, who cares, right? I'll just write down email. Another key phrase to use is, Ms. Jones, I could show it to anybody that works and eats. Most people just use their cell phones. And so I can show it to anybody that works and eats. Most people just use their cell phones. That helps them to just be like, oh, yeah, no big deal. It's that gentle reminder that you could show it to pretty much everybody. And here's the deal, guys. If they don't work and they don't eat, you don't want to show them Cutco anyway, right? They're not doing too hot. They're not working. They're not eating. Okay, so don't worry about doing an appointment for them. Okay? You know, so but just use that phrase. I can show anybody that works and eats. Most people use their cell phones. They're like, oh, yeah, all right. And they pull out their phone and they scroll through. Okay? Another one. Did you ever have anybody tell you, oh, well, I just want to make sure it's cool first? You ever heard that? Okay? Or hey, I want to talk to them first. Sometimes they'll say that. Well, I just want to talk to these people first. Say, hey, perfect. I want you to talk to them too. All we're doing is writing them down now, and I'll give you a couple days to reach out to them. In fact, I can send you a text that you could send to them before I even leave to make it easier. Okay? You know, but the whole idea is that, guys, don't let something as simple as just writing down a name and number be what keeps you from getting 10 to 15 recommendations. I mean, it costs the customer $0 to give you a recommendation. It costs them nothing, just a little bit of time. Okay? You know, so that's why you can be more pleasantly persistent with those customers. I'm not talking about being aggressive. I'm not saying give me your dang phone and let me write them all down. We're not talking about like that. Okay, but pleasantly persistent. And the key to pleasantly persistent is just always be in an upbeat mood, but don't just give up at the first time that they say, I don't know. Okay? You know, I was talking to a buddy of mine who he's been married for 27 years now to his wife. He was telling me that, you know, when if he hadn't given up on something at the beginning, he never would have been married. You know, when he first met his wife, you know, she was working at the front desk. He was working back in the warehouse of this company. And he went up and he said, hey, I want to take you on a date. She said, never. Not you. No way, no how. He's like, that's all right. I got time. You know, they've been married now for 25, 26 years, something like that. Yeah, they got 2 great kids. One of their kids, Logan, is a buddy of mine at the jiu-jitsu gym. The kid he's amazing, right? He's 15 years old, and he's competing against purple belts and brown belts that are adults that have been doing jiu-jitsu for like 10 years, 8 years. You know, and he's beating them. You know, so that's one of those things, guys, is don't give up just at the first sign of adversity, you know, and you'll get a ton of recommendations. So as utilize those keys to help you out. You know, utilize that and make sure, again, as a reminder, get your recommendation book. Make sure you're spending time connecting at the beginning, making sure that you lead in with that good transition about why you're working, making sure you got the lead-in questions to the recommendation approach. Make sure you got the recommendation approach memorized, and then have those subtle little tips and boosts or whatever to help you get to at least 10 to 15. So, guys, that's what I got for you this morning. We do want to make sure that we're making